Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Imuna, and we are going to do another noteworthy session of Ariande Joseph's testimony. We're probably going to have to break it in half because we're going to have to jot down some noteworthy things as we look more at this Snowden situation from Seeking Sister Wives. So without further ado, let's get into it. She's on John Yates's channel, and this was done a few days ago. So let's listen in.
Okay. Ari, how did you come to know? How did you find out about the Snowdens? How did you start speaking to them? Like, what was that process about?
I connected with the Snowdens in a polygyny group on Facebook. The very first encounter I had was with Dimitri. He was in my inbox. I was pregnant with my now 8-year-old daughter. He approached me about being a sister wife, and I told him that I was pregnant and in a relationship. So we did not correspond again in inbox, but we did in the group. So I would see him comments and that kind of thing. So I knew who he was. I knew who Ashley was at the time. And then fast forward like about maybe 2.5, almost 3 years later, I reconnect with them again. This time it was Ashley.
When did you first start? Like, what year? Like, what, 20? When was like the first time you had any type of correspondence with them?
2012.
Okay. I'm taking notes because this is noteworthy. Just to get the timeline. So she says 2012, he slid in her, he was actively pursuing. Okay. He slid in her DM. She was pregnant and in a relationship. So it was a no-go. But they were fishing in these polygyny groups or in these groups on Facebook, social media. So what we're trying to do is follow her storyline as well as look at some of the things that were shared, especially on the first season of Sister Wife, so that we could corroborate some of this information. Perry Mason style, y'all. Perry Mason style.
2012. So this is way before the show ever was even thought of or anything. Okay.
Or I've known them quite some time, and we didn't actually reconnect until 2000. It was 2 years later that we reconnected. Ashley actually flew out, so she and I became friends. So I'm trying to track it. She and I became friends via Facebook. We had a lot in common, a lot of interest, and during the time that we were getting to know each other and kind of bonding, Dimitri reached out again, and so he's like, "You want to come home?" This is kind of like his.
Was this after Ashley came to see you?
No, this was before.
Okay.
So, yeah, this was before, and then when he started reaching out, all three of us would talk, and we decided that she would come and visit. So she came.
She gave us a very good insight, but he of a MO. He kind of cut her off when she was about to go into it, which is the come on home. That's the way we've seen him do it throughout the 3 seasons. He did it to Crystalline. They did it to not Jocelyn. Jocelyn didn't get a chance. They did it to Vanessa, which is bringing the people quickly. I always meant like, why so quickly? Quickly into their space so that they can begin to control the narrative. But let's continue. He cut her off, so she didn't finish her thought.
For 3 days.
What year was this about? Like around?
My daughter and Nenu are about the same age. So my daughter at the time was about 2.5, 3, almost 3. Because when I came back to the house, she was 4. They both were 4.
Okay.
So yeah, what year was that? 2015, 2014.
Okay. I'm just trying to build a timeline. That's why I asked. Okay.
2014, because I was in a house between 2016 and 17. So 2014, she comes. She's there for 3 days, and the first day it was fine. You know, we kind of bonded over a lot of things that we had in common. We took the kids out, that kind of thing. But then the second day, I started to see a lot of what we would call red flags.
Did you think it was odd that Ashley was the one to come out and like scout you rather than Dimitri?
I mean, the whole thing with polygyny is that it's supposed to be centered around matriarch. You know, that whole like matriarchal. So the women are the one who lead, if that makes sense. So this is what they told me. This is the philosophy they had,
and we hear that oftentimes. Ashley, even in her interview, she wants somebody she can be a friend with. She wants somebody who she could connect with. She wants somebody. So she goes out. Both of them are scouting this woman, Ari, and she goes out now to do the mission to see whether or not it's working. So the first time they tried to get together, or he tried to holler or slide in the DM, she was pregnant. 2 years later, it's apparent that the father of the child is not in the picture, and they're trying again. Seems like they really wanted her. And according to what we're hearing, now she's seeing red flags, and she's going to tell us what happens next.
She kind of took the lead in getting to know the woman first. But I later find out that it was because she was afraid that Dimitri would have sex with the woman if he was to go out and meet the woman. So she wanted to at least meet the woman first before he did. So she and we realized that it wasn't going to work out. It was way too many things that she was very nitpicky about.
So you said like by the second day, like things were not good. Like what was happening like on that second day?
She started asking questions like, why don't you put the garbage can on top of the fridge? Like she suggested I put the trash in the fridge because the kids
in your house.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She wanted me to move the trash because she didn't want Nanu to get in the trash. But I had a baby 8 and all that other stuff, so we figured that out. And then it was like my daughter had a high chair, and she had berries on the high chair, and it stained the high chair. And she was like, "Oh, that's dirty." And I told her, it's washed. So it was like these little things that she would, like the sheets. I just changed my linen on my bed, and she complained and said that I need to change the linen. And I told her I changed it right before you came.
This is day 2 in your own house.
Yes, in my own house. Like, it was just these little weird things, right? And so I'm thinking, okay, I don't want to deal with somebody who's like super nitpicky about little small things. So 3rd day, her grandfather died, and we were out at dinner, and she got that call. So that paired with all the weird stuff, we're like, yeah, we're just not going to try.
Well, at that time, were you where was everybody? Because
the value of listening to what's happening is hearing her story, but also being able to relate it to our lives. How sometimes we get a lot of warnings, right? The Creator is giving us warnings. There's certain things that's in motion in the universe, and we transgress that bound. We continue to push. We continue to go in a direction. So now this is the second time. Well, the first time it was bad timing. The second time it wasn't a good match, right? And she's taking note of this, but it depends on where we are emotionally in our mental space. In certain points in our life, people could get into our ear. They can make us to believe. She said she was talking to her Ashley, and Dimitri was talking. So both of them are talking, and when we want something, we sell the thing, right? And the person who may be vulnerable, like, oh, I'm just going car shopping, I'm just gonna go look around. Next thing you know, you come out with what you didn't want because the salesperson exploited the fact that you weren't prepared, or exploited your desire or your weakness. So that is something for us to take note of.
This is a while ago. So where were they? Were they in Georgia at that time?
They were in PA. They were living
in Pennsylvania.
Yep, they were in Pennsylvania. Okay. And I was living in New Orleans, Louisiana. So we decided not to go forward with the courtship. We did remain like social media friends, but we kind of lost touch. And then maybe like a year and a half later, I'm in Ghana, West Africa. And I saw, when I came back from the beach, I saw text messages from her on Facebook. And so she reached out, and she told me she had a dream about me on a beach. And I was actually on the beach that day, so it kind of freaked me out. So we talked about that, and then she started to text me more and ask me questions about acting. So I was already an established working actor.
Let's pause. Another nugget. Another thing that's noteworthy. So they still have her on the mind. This is now she said another year and a half later. So this is closer to 2016, right? They've been doing this for 4 years. Every time is not the right time. Sometimes people may get dreams and visions, and we're like, yes, it's confirmation, right? Like she said, kind of freaked her out. The spirituality, if we don't understand the spiritual realm, we may think, oh, that's a green light. But she already got certain amount of signs and red flags before. But oftentimes you may see people do it in religious spaces where, oh, God told me to tell you, I had a vision about you last night. And sometimes it may be accurate, and other times it may be you are getting visions and you are getting dreams, but it's not from the right source. And this also, and put your hand up, it has happened to me in times past. Like I had a dream over here doing the Martin Luther King, and you saw it and it came to pass, but you misinterpreted it. It's kind of like when Joesph was in prison and they couldn't interpret the dream. They had the dream, but they didn't know what the dream meant. right? And then they had to find Joesph who can interpret it correctly, because most of the people who was interpreting was saying it means, right? So we have to be careful about our dreams and visions, because sometimes it may be right and exact, and sometimes it may be a test.
But she said that she had, she wanted to be an actor, so she would reach out and ask questions, and that's how we bonded again. We reconnected, and she apologized for the first interactions between us, because she said, it was something she realized, what have you. So I thought that was pretty sweet of her to apologize, and like I said,
I want to pause. Wait.
We had a lot in common, so
I want to pause on the part that she wanted to be an actor. There's a video I'm going to show you right here. We're going to take a look at it. It's really quick, and then we're going to come back to what she's saying. That's if this is not getting too long and that I have to come back. One moment. Okay, so this is the video that I saw some time ago before all of this came out, and I just thought it was a little weird. I put it in the little weird category. But this is a video that she made in 2019. So this is way after Ari's experience, but to what Ari is talking about her wanting to be an actor and things of that nature. She wrote this in January 6th of 2019. Oh, let me put my glasses on. I'm tripping. Hold on. Brought to you by the stars of TLC's Seeking Sister Wife. This is a parody of Tiana Taylor and Ghostface Killer's Gonna Love Me remix. The scene takes us into the secret world of Ashley's inner thoughts when Dimitri goes grocery shopping and brings home the wrong items. In this case, conventional kale instead of the organic she's accustomed to. The audacity. Because Dimitri and Ashley are such great communicators in real life, the parody gives viewers the dream fight they wish they could see on Seeking Sister Wife. LOL. So let's leave that there and let's watch.
What the hell is this, Dimitri?
What are you doing with that?
What is this?
Yo, it's the organic kale.
I've never purchased this conventional kale before.
Man, but what's your deal? Like, what's the real? I mean, it's early in the afternoon and all that. Like, are you hungry? You want me to cook you some chickpeas or something?
You think that's funny?
I'm
That's
just
your
saying.
problem. You think everything is funny?
Oh, you want some chickpeas or something, yo? Damn.
Interesting. The part that took me aback even before these accusations of domestic violence was the convincing way in which she left her leg up and tried to drop kick him, and the shoving of the kale in the face. That had me like, yo, that's some interesting acting. But you know what I mean? So let's go back over to some of the thoughts that Ari is sharing with.
like I said, we had a lot in common, so we bonded there. I trusted Ashley.
All right, let me ask you a couple of questions. Have you ever been in like a polygamous relationship prior to being with the Snowdens?
Never.
And have you been in one after the Snowdens?
Never.
Okay. Okay. And then question number two, you mentioned that you were an actor, and I've looked you up. You have some nice credits. What it seems like, I know Vanessa was an actress. It seems like, and this was way before the show was ever on TV.
And not Jocelyn, I keep saying Jocelyn. What's the Taylor? They dug up some old couples court from 2019, I guess, before she comes on the show, where she was at the couples court. So she also has some stuff in, reality TV space.
Like, did they have some type of affinity for going after actors? Do they want to be famous?
Famous. They talked about that. So when I finally decided to go forward with the marriage, I actually was just supposed to visit, but during the conversations that she and I would have, they would allude to wanting to be famous, and Ashley wanted to be this and wanted to be that, and Dimitri would be in the back. Oh yeah, I'd be your manager, that kind of thing. So he has this lust for control and power, and he saw it by way of attaching himself to people who he thought had it or were headed that way, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. And we're going to stop it right here. we have to be, I don't know if you've heard this, and they say be specific on what we ask, because sometimes we can say generally we want to be famous, right? For what? Because there's many people that become famous for doing different things. What exactly did you want to be famous for? Because now you're getting fame or you're getting notoriety, but it's in a different space, and it's for reasons that you may not have thought when you said that you wanted to be famous. You may not have thought it's going to be for this, right? And so now a lot of people are talking, because when you get into the spotlight, it magnifies whatever pre-exists. You understand? So because there was a pre-existing issue, because Ari is talking about before we ever saw them come into the spotlight, and they tried to cover it over or whitewash it because the behavior didn't change. It basically, essentially, the story come to bump, as they would say. They got to a point where everything now is going to be revealed, and that's kind of how it goes in our life. If we don't deal with the things that we should be dealing with, and we continue to let them slide, they crop up at the most inopportune time. And this is why I promote self-improvement and healing and cleansing, so that when we come to the world, we can be our most authentic self. So with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is Noteworthy. We act with a purpose. We're going to come back and do part 2 of this conversation and hear about when Ari actually moves to their home and what happens after that. So definitely stay tuned. I thank you for tuning in. Subscribe, like, share, and all that nice stuff, and we'll talk soon. 1.